I think all the officers need to be trained, any training that's available. The Attorney General's office provides adequate training. It's just taking the time to get the officers there. A lot of it they can pick up online. But I think the biggest thing, you had to know when to ask for help. If you have a major investigation, a major crime, and if you feel that it might be a little too intimidating for you, that's when you have to call BCI. They're there free of charge for us. We ask them to come in and assist us. Those guys, that's all they do, is collect evidence, investigate crimes, and we had to be able to, you know, swallow your pride and say, hey, we could use some help on this. Because anytime you have a crime, if it's a major crime, you don't want to say you're too proud to call in somebody else, that you want to do it yourself. But I think every officer needs to have as much training as they possibly can. Any training that's available, you know, with the financial fix that the county has, you know, you really can't pay the officers to go and take a lot of this training. I get flyers, you know, every month, and the training is like $895 for this one class, you know, and we can't afford to do things like that here in Vinton County. So what we had to take whatever training is free, or any training that's in the area that is cheap or free, next to free probably.
Well, I'd just like to say, you know, he's exactly right. That's the stuff that you have to do with your officers. You know, you have to give them the availability for it. The biggest thing with the officers that are at the sheriff's office now, there's a lot of them that'll pay for that. They pay for a lot of that stuff on their own. But what we agreed to do is give them the time off to where they can go to the training if they're doing that. The biggest thing is, like, you know, BCI, just like my opponent said, BCI is a free service that you can use. We've used that extensively for the last year. I mean, every homicide we've either had BCI involved in that, or we've had the state fire marshal's office involved in it. We are actually starting up a task force that we're going to have together that's going to have people from different agencies like that assigned to our task force. So those things are going to be what you can do to put cases together like that. The biggest thing that we're going to have, no matter who's in office, the biggest thing that's going to be better next year, whichever candidate's there, there's going to be a prosecutor that law enforcement can go talk to actually see, what do I have to do to put together this case? What do you need for me to bring this in front of you to do this? I'll be honest, we haven't had that in 3.5 years. So the biggest thing for law enforcement is going to be, and that's with all the officers, they're going to be able to get a hold of these, whoever the prosecutor is, and sit down with them and say, here's the problem that I have. This is what has come in as a complaint. This is what I found out with everything. Do you have any ideas? You know, a previous prosecutor that we had, I was able to do that with quite a bit, and it helped. I mean, you know, that prosecutor was able to just say, okay, well, maybe if you try this, and it's something I never even thought of. You know, so the best part of it's going to be they're going to have somebody they can talk to. Now, the officers themselves, they get training through, just like my opponent said, you can get on, you know, OLEG, which is a new system that's set up. They can get free training with that when they want to do that. A lot of the officers spend their own money to go out and do their, get their training, which I have also myself. So I would agree with that wholeheartedly.
I have to agree with him on the prosecutor point. In the past years, we've had some real good prosecutors, and I think it's essential. Whoever's in as sheriff or any law enforcement has to have a prosecutor they can work with. Because not just taking a case, but just talk to them about an investigation you're doing. Make sure that you're not overstepping your authority when you're trying to do an investigation. And I think it's probably one of the most essential points is having a prosecutor in there that is willing to sit down with the officers and talk with them and work with them.
I know for our office right now, what we do on those kind of scenes, we don't take that medication. The reason we don't take that medication is because for a long time we take that medication, have it at the office, not have any idea what to do with it. What we've been doing is our county coroner is actually supposed to be in charge of that, the medications, you know, things of that nature. So when the EMS arrives, they're usually communicating with the county coroner, and the county coroner decides what she wants to do with that medication. But we don't take that medication.
In our department, if hospice is involved, hospice takes charge of the medication. If hospice is not involved, like Sean said, the coroner takes charge of it. We do not take the medication anymore.
Well, to answer that, we've actually, when I started September the 1st last year, we started over brand new after that. We started with a new policy and procedures manual that we put together. We have, we started our booking stuff back up, so we actually have records to see how much money we're spending on people that are going to Nelsonville. Because previously we didn't have a booking system, the actual book set up, so we couldn't keep records of who we actually had in there and didn't. So we didn't know if the bill we were getting from Nelsonville was actually right or not. When we set up this policy and procedures, one of the things that I've got to do is I've got to change as an administrator now. I'm into trying to follow up on these cases and stuff that everybody has, but there's a part of it that I've got to be an administrator on also. I've been in there for a year, little over a year now. If I'm still in after that year, what I plan on doing is going by our policy and procedures, which most of the officers at the sheriff's office now are very good officers. There's not a whole lot of changing that you have to do there, but there are some things that we need to work on. Those are the things that I'd start with if elected.
Well, not knowing exactly what all is going on in there, I can't say is exactly what I would change. Some of the things I would change, though, is I would insist that every deputy that goes out has business cards. If he comes to your house on a call, the first thing that deputy's going to do is hand you his business card so you know who you're talking to. And 2 days later, if you call back in, you know who that deputy was. You don't have to try to give a description of him for us to figure out who it was. Also, if that deputy, you feel that deputy didn't treat you right, I want to know about it. If that deputy done a good job, he was pleasant with you, I want to know about that too, because I don't feel I can control how they act if somebody's not feeding back to me how the deputy's acting out there. I want to get the deputies out on patrol more. While they're out driving around, I don't expect them to drive the whole 8-hour shift, but while they're driving around and they're going down the road, they see you out in your yard, I want them to stop and talk to you out in the county. Because if they don't stop and talk to the people out in the county, how are they going to know what's going on in your area? And that's the biggest thing. If we don't know, if law enforcement doesn't know what's happening in your neighborhood or down your road, there's no way we can do anything because we don't know what's going on. So that's some of the things. I've got a few other things that I want to do too. But a lot of it's going to depend on, once I get it in, seeing how everything's running. I am glad they started the booking thing back up again because I thought that was a mistake when they discontinued it.
The revenue is a big thing that you have to look at because everybody knows gas prices have went up to almost $4 a gallon, things like that. Plus you have to look at the maintenance and things with the cars, but that's not an excuse for not having a car out. What we've done this year is we applied for a grant. A grant came out for a high visibility grant. I applied for it, was actually told by the Ohio Criminal Justice Service representative that came down and said that they had come down for 7 years or so trying to get Vinton County to apply for this grant, and Vinton County never applied for it. So as soon as that guy told me about that grant and what it amounted to, we applied for it and we got accepted for it. What the grant does is it's for high visibility. It's for more cruisers to be out there. It pays for the overtime for the deputies to go out, to be out on patrol. It pays for the gasoline for the cruisers to be out. Basically, the only thing we're going to have in it is what cruisers the deputies are going to drive while they're out there. It also pays for special deputies that want to come in and make some money, which is the good part of it. These guys don't make enough money as it is, for everything they do. So this pays for overtime that they can work. And I think we got $20,000 that we got for this grant just for the high visibility. What they want you to do with the visibility grant is to be out, be seen, make traffic stops. They want, what we're going to focus on, we're going to try to get the people, when somebody commits a crime or drug trafficking, 98% of them are doing it in a vehicle. Somehow they have to get the stuff out of there, somehow they have to get there. We're gonna focus on stopping people, talking to them, seeing if you can find out if they've got narcotics in the car, if they've got stolen property in the car, if they've got criminal tools, things like that. Another thing that helps with the officers being out on this grant, making traffic stops, everybody sees them. You know as well as I do, when you see a red and blue lights going on, you notice, that somebody's there. It also puts them in the area. On the high visibility grant, they're not allowed to take a phone call if somebody would call in and say, I'm missing something from my garage, and one of the guys are out there. They're not supposed to go handle that call unless they're right there on it. They can stop, take the initial thing till another deputy gets out there, but what the grant refers to is patrolling. It gets them out on the road, lets them do what they need to do out there with traffic stops. That's one of the things that we've done with that also. And thinking about the money, the other thing that we've done is I've applied for numerous grants. I mean, if a grant comes in, I'm signing on it. I've had great help from each one of the commissioners with our budget, with any help that we needed. They've been a tremendous help. But again, like Teresa had spoken to earlier, our county's not made of money. So what I've been doing is applying for any grant that comes in. We've been able to pay for our narcotics, drug trafficking. We've been able to pay for all the money that come into that at very minimal cost from the sheriff's office. We were able to put that money in something else. We got money to buy new equipment for drug trafficking cases. We've got money for equipment for just anything in particular in the office. We've even got money from OCJS to actually use as our controlled drug buy money. The biggest thing right now is there's a lot of stuff going on in Vinton County, so we have to apply for these grants and try to get these grants.
If that grant money is out there, you're foolish for not going after it. But my idea is to turn the department into being a proactive department. Get out there and prevent some of these crimes. Yeah, you can't prevent them all, but you can prevent some of them. Prevent some of these crimes instead of sitting around just waiting for somebody to do something, to commit a crime, call in, and you leave the office and go out. You need to be a proactive. Prevent the crime. Maybe you save somebody a little